Great reconnecting with Ryan Miller. He was always a pensive guy, smart guy, deep guy, and professional with us.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit guarded when he was in the room, but as you'll hear here, opens up a fair bit about his life and times in hockey.
Yes, does not address humidity, folks. Let's just state that right off the top. There will be no humidity addressed here.
But well, explain what you mean for those who don't get the reference.
He suggested that he didn't like to take game day skates, I believe, on days that were humid and
well, I
rainy.
talked about the humidity at Rogers Arena.
Yeah.
But as you'll listen here over the next 45 minutes, hour, whatever, however long, you can understand the level of analysis that goes into his career, because there were several points during this interview where he's very sort of reflective of his process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
goalies, they're a little bit weird, right? They're a little bit,
but they're also thinkers.
I think it's they are. I think thinkers.
It's by virtue of their position on the ice that they're not God, but they sort of have that see all sort of mentality, right? They see all. They're omnipotent. And so, a lot of reflection, opinions from Ryan Miller on a fabulous National Hockey League and overall career. And one thing that stands out in this interview, he is a student of the game.
Oh, is he ever?
He not only just loves playing it, but he loves the sport, its history, and the fact that it's got more to it than the National Hockey League. You'll hear him reference that too.
And we'd love to hear your feedback on this interview. You can text us 778-402-9680 to the Great Clips inbox. Great Clips.
It's going to be great.
Without further ado, here is Ryan Miller. S&P Presents Ryan Miller, former Canucks goaltender. Our next guest played 853 NHL games, including Stanley Cup playoff games, 153 of them with the Vancouver Canucks. It's our pleasure to welcome to Sekeres and Price, Mr. Ryan Miller. Ryan, first of all,
morning.
Good morning. You're a new dad. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, second time around. Got Bodie, who's a Vancouver-born Canadian American, is 7, and he has a new sister named Kaya, who was born on the 4th.
Oh, very cool.
What's it like being a girl dad?
So far, so good. She's quiet and very polite. So, no, I'm excited for it. My wife Noreen and I, we were talking how we were excited about another personality to watch them grow, and we're looking forward to a different experience for sure. Like, Bodie's awesome, but it's great to have that other side of things too.
Man-to-man defense still in effect, so that's very good for you. You haven't gone to zone yet. Does Bodie play hockey?
Yeah, he ended up playing on the Might B team, which is 8 and under. He's just turned 7 recently, so he was playing as a 6-year-old this year. It's fun. Like, they get to rotate through all the positions, so he got his chance to play goalie a little bit, and he's a good little player. He's watched a lot of hockey, so it's fun to watch. They're aware. The kids who grew up around the rinks or their dads play. It's fun to watch how they interpret the game, and they, you see them recognizing things on the ice. Where to be. It's fun.
Wait till your daughter plays. Girl hockey parents are even more intense. So you got that coming. It's a lot of fun though. Enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know how much more intense it can get. I was the manager of the Might B team, and we were not playing all that many games. We're playing twice a month. We have those jamboree series where 4 teams show up. You play 3 games, an hour and a half, and you're done. And man, the parents are serious. It's like as funny as Matt Green, former defenseman for the Kings. He and I grew up together in Michigan a little bit. He's a little bit younger, but always around the rink at similar times. Our sons played together on the team here in LA, and it's just funny. We're sitting there and the parents are flipping out and they're looking at us and we're just like, it's all good, guys. It's just fine. There's nothing going on here. We're good. It's just pretty funny.
Yeah, you guys have played for some stakes there, a little bit bigger than Jamboree mites. Take us back to your introduction to the game, Ryan. I know you come from a hockey family dynasty there in Michigan. I read, did you do some growing up in California as well? Take us through your journey with the game.
Yeah. Introduced to the game, like you said, family connection was my grandfather. Came from Regina, Saskatchewan, down to Michigan State in the 50s, and kind of settled in there. My dad was born in Regina, but they settled in Michigan. And so my grandfather, his brother, my dad, my grandfather's brother's boys, some cousins from Calgary, and my brother, we all played at Michigan State. So strong connection to the game, and just grew up watching my cousins play. Like they're at Michigan State. Kelly was there until I think '84. So I mean, I my first memories of watching hockey were watching my cousins play at Michigan State, and then they went on to the NHL. So kind of laid the groundwork for the mentality that, well, my family can do it, I can do it. And so I started taking hockey pretty seriously immediately, and really found that I loved the game and loved to play and loved to be around the rink and everything about it. And watch it on TV, any chance we could get, watching it. So it was a lot of fun to grow up in a family where my interest aligned with the family interest, and there was a lot of knowledge to be shared and insight to be given. So that's kind of where we started with things. And there is a California connection. My dad worked in the software industry, which was kind of early on, really wasn't a Silicon Valley yet. So we were actually out east in New Jersey, and we were in Boston for a minute, and back to Michigan, and then we're over to San Jose area for a couple of years, around 86 to 88. So I actually started playing in Santa Clara, played hockey, probably, like at that mite level out there, and kind of got my first taste of okay, I want to, try playing some goalie. So, kind of bounced around a little bit as a kid, but ended up back in Michigan and growing up through that, the Michigan National Hockey League and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pretty intense. Almost a Canadian experience, I think, for Michiganders, isn't it? The same sort of scrutiny and intensity, and probably got you to where you were as well. What did Kelly, Kevin, Kip, and Drew all think of you becoming a goaltender? Did they encourage it? Were you teased for it? What did they think?
Somebody had to play goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Family, right?
Yeah, my cousin Taylor is a little older than me. He actually played, but wasn't really close with him until we got a little bit older. But it was, I think I was just kind of obsessed with it. I just really had the feeling when I played hockey, like I didn't like to get scored on. Like I was always trying to be above the play. I was really concerned about it. So I think my personality kind of aligned where, okay, if you're really that concerned about it, you should just get in goal and make sure we're not getting scored on. So I think that was kind of my motivation behind that. And then everybody's pretty good about it. I think my dad kind of had the fatherly concerns of, well, there's only one goalie on the team. And, at the time and the 1980s, I'm sure his experience with goalies was, watching his buddies get hit in a fiberglass mask and getting knocked out cold by pucks and, that kind of stuff. So I don't think he really wanted me to be a goalie. Obviously, he kind of was trying to coach me the other direction, and I kind of had that determination, and I really wanted to do it, and I showed signs that I wanted to do it, and I would not be quitting. So eventually, it turned into, well, let's help him, with his journey through hockey. So there was a little pushback, but ultimately it became a ton of support, and my family did whatever they could to help. And yeah, skating against my cousins in the summertime or when they were training definitely helped. I was basically a shooter tutor for a few years. Like, okay, stand right here, and they just shoot around me. They weren't. They're there to practice. They weren't taking it easy, and then they're good enough. They knew they weren't going to hit me. So
no need for a summer hockey camp though with all those guys around. I mean, honestly, you were always in training.
No, it was nice. They were kind enough to let us come hang out. My brother and I come out, wheel around the ice a little bit, and we felt like we were being taken seriously. I'm sure if I could have seen video of all that now, they're just probably messing around. But we felt like we were being taken seriously, and we felt like we were, working towards something. But yeah, it was a great insight. We got to see what it takes to be a pro, and it was kind of instilled at a young age that you got to be doing the work. And I think that's what definitely helped my brother and I, move through the ranks and separate ourselves and, make it to the pro level.
You went to Michigan State following everybody else. Am I right in your sophomore season, a .950 save percentage? Did it feel as good as that looks on paper?
Yeah, it was funny, just the team we had, the way we played, and then it's almost like if I got scored on, it was almost disappointing. Like it was, like most games, you're like, okay, let's just figure out we're going to win this one. But it's like it got to the point where we just had it down. We had really good team, Michigan State. We were ranked number 1 for a long time when I was there. That doesn't just come with goaltending; it comes with a really balanced team. My first year, Sean Horkoff's our captain. We had Adam Hall and John Michael Lyles, and we had some really good players.
Well, it was one of the great careers ever in college hockey. You're being modest, my friend. Hobie Baker winner, 3-time all-conference goalie. Every time you strapped it up, you were all-conference goalie. Led the NCAA in career shutout. You set a record for career shutouts in 26. And then I dug this up. The 2001 Big Ten Male Athlete of the Year. I took the liberty at looking at the NBA and NFL drafts that year. Couple of your fellow Spartans, Zach Randolph, Jason Richardson, were NBA lottery picks who would go on to some degree of success. Steve Hutchinson came out of the University of Michigan that year to Seattle here and forged a Hall of Fame career on the offensive line. Boy, did you beat out some folks on your way to some of those accolades back at MSU. Yeah,
there's a lot of, I think, not a lot of goalies who won this year. Dryden McKay, becomes a third, but it'd been a while, and I think there's just a lot of interest in that storyline, and we were having a tremendous season. Our hockey team, being surrounded by the basketball boys that just won a national title, and I think football did a little bit of a downturn, but they're still pretty good. But athletics at Michigan State during that time were pretty strong, so there's a lot of hype around it. So, I think that definitely helped. So. Really, really fun to look back on and know that I was able to, put myself in a position to live out a dream. When I grew up, first song I probably learned was the Michigan State fight song. Both my parents went there, and our family history there, and just going to the hockey games at Mon Arena since I can remember, to be able to kind of live that out and then have a successful career at Michigan State was, looking back on it, it's pretty amazing. So, definitely a great memory for me, and very satisfying to look back on and just say, okay, it's something I accomplished.
That was the after your final year, you get invited to the World Championships. And you play actually at the World Championships, which is a pretty amazing feat for a guy of that age. Did that tell you, hey, I'm maybe the NHL is pretty doable here? I mean, or are you confident already that you're going to be a good pro at that point?
I went the year prior, and I was the third goalie, and I got to kind of hang around Germany and practice and do some cool stuff. But be exposed to it. And then the next year, it was a chance to play. And I hadn't had a contract finalized or anything with Buffalo yet. And it was kind of My agent and we talked about it. Like, do we really want to go risk it, or do we want to go hit this out of the park, kind of thing? And I was like, well, let's just go play. And we all agreed, playing was the right move. It wasn't going to change the contract situation all that much, given my college career. So went over and just tried to have a good experience. I think we didn't medal that year, but we had a strong finish, good showing, and it was a lot of fun playing against teams like Latvia with all their fans surrounding everybody and going crazy and getting exposed to different style of hockey. It was pretty cool.
Did that sink the teeth of the national team into you? I mean, I'm sure you wanted to represent the Stars and Stripes anyway, but did that just cinch it because you were loyal to your national team when called upon for the rest of the way?
Yeah, I definitely want to make even more time, but some of the playoff runs and just trying to manage my rest, recovery, or injuries. There were a few times I had to pass it up, but I wanted to play. The national development team actually was my birth year. Was the first year they had the national development team in Ann Arbor, and I didn't really get a sniff for that, and I kind of took that as a chip on my shoulder, like, I'm gonna show you I can do it. So when I got the chances, I definitely wanted to take it and slot in and improve. I could play.
Olympian of various roles in 2006, 10, and 14. We'll get to 2010 in just a little bit.
But you get into pro hockey, Ryan, and the success comes almost immediately. 41 wins. You set a Rochester Amerks franchise record in the American Hockey League, and that happens to be the lockout year as well. Tell us about the timing of all of that. Did that wind up working out for you developmentally?
Yeah. I mean, it ended up being my third year pro. In my first 2 years, I had a stretch my first year with the Sabres. They were in kind of a team in transition. Marty Biron and Mika Nornan were first round pick goaltenders ahead of me in age and kind of slotted ahead of me a little bit. So I knew there'd be competition. I knew there was time to develop, but I did kind of have a good start to my career. And even that second year, I made the team out of camp. I was starting goalie first 2 games of the year. Played okay. We didn't win, so they kind of shuffled the deck. I didn't get a whole lot my second year. But in that time in Rochester, we had strong teams. We were playing good hockey. We were making, good pushes for the playoffs the first year. The second year, we had a good run. And that lockout year, I think we were probably the best team in the league, and we got to the conference finals, lost in the conference final that year. But we were pretty stacked. Derek Roy, Jason Palmaville, Thomas Vanek. You can kind of sense there was something building. Like Paul Gostad as well was another guy who moved up with us, and it was definitely played a big role in my career because hockey essentially shut down, with the lockout. Guys are kind of scrambling to find places to play, or certain guys who are solidified in their NHL roles couldn't really find a place to play, or they assumed that the game would come back and they didn't want to get locked in. But, we were at a level where we needed to play, needed to develop, and most of us understood what was going on. And that it was our time to kind of shine. We were going to be playing probably at the highest level of hockey available. And it was, we took it as a challenge, took it as a moment to set ourselves apart. And I thought, we had a really good season. And that really helped my development and my momentum, so to speak, moving into the NHL. Because the next season, I was the guy who was playing a lot of hockey, and I was the guy who was now into his fourth year pro. And for a goaltender, I think, you got to find yourself a little bit. And I probably could have been playing a little bit earlier, I feel like, but there was no pressure to be in the NHL that year. And we're doing the best we can. We're playing the highest level possible. There was no real feeling that we needed to be anywhere but there. So the focus was strong to be in Rochester and doing the best we could. And then that just led into a lot of confidence and a little bit of mojo from our group, and turned into a couple good years for the Sabres moving forward.
Yeah, you're right. From 05-06 and 06-07, just fabulous years in the regular season and in the playoffs. And you're right, you are the man, to the point in that second year, that 06-07, 63 games played. I mean, that's just it's a huge workload by today's standards. But interesting to note that, especially in 05-06, Biron and Norton are still in the organization, and it brings up the dynamic that we just had this conversation with Corey Schneider recently as well, about being the young guy, but with some incumbents or pedigreed people ahead of you, and what the dynamic is. And you've seen it on both sides. Hey, by the time you got to Vancouver, of course, you had Jacob Markstrom nipping at your heels, but then you had great years with the Canucks as well. So that dynamic of pedigreed player or veteran guy with the young guy nipping it, like it does work, or doesn't it? Schneider had it with Luongo, obviously. So talk about what that dynamic is like. Does it bring the best out of both goaltenders in a lot of cases?
Well, I mean, it's still pro sports. I mean, you got to put up or shut up kind of mentality. I think a lot of people get lost in that. They assume everyone's getting cut a break, but it's like, just because you sign a contract, but like, you have to perform. You have to, put results up, or they're going to find a way to, slot somebody into your role. So I think there's always that in the back of your mind, and you're trying to prove yourself not only to your teammates, and you're trying to get results, but there is that, you want to keep the net, you want to keep playing, no matter what your position is. I think that's good for a young guy to feel like he can push a guy out. Maybe the timing's not right, or maybe he's not quite there yet, but you should say, okay, eventually I can do this. And you want the older guy never to give the net up, or the guy who you have slotted in. That should be the feeling. But yeah, it gets dicey a little bit. Some guys probably can't handle that situation. There's a little bit of resentment. So when you do find those dynamics, or guys are on a good, successful team, and they can kind of balance each other and push each other, that's always going to be a good environment, because it's healthy and it's good for the team. So I've been fortunate, though, gotten into a few situations with, great partners who were able to push, and I've always gotten along with my partners, and I felt like there was support. It was a two-way street. We helped each other out where we could.
By the way, I undercut you. I was marveling at your 63 game season, failing to see that the next season you played 76.
Yeah, you missed the 76 in there.
Like, come on, 76 games. Like, how did that one feel? Like, could you, at some point, we know goalies love to play. We know every player loves to play in every game. But was there one moment where you kind of looked at the coach like, seriously, I'm playing again?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably still in that phase. I don't know. I think that, with Lindy Ruff as coach, and he's pretty old school, and whatever he kind of thought was going to happen was going to be happening. He was a guy who relied heavily on trust with his goaltenders, and for whatever reason, he found it more comforting to be slotting me into to more games. We did talk about it a little bit from that point, because it was hard, and I think we did miss the playoffs that year, if I remember correctly. So it didn't really have a positive impact overall. So I think we adjusted a little bit from there, but I think there was still like a couple 72 game seasons in there too. So I got to play a lot of hockey, and I think just the way the schedule is worked out, we're an East Coast team. We're kind of going to the East Coast mainly. So maybe that's why it worked out. I definitely, after playing on the West and the schedule for the West, I don't know if I could have done that schedule.
Yeah, I was, and this was years, of course, before the term load management became part of.
And you guys all wonder why I'm so skinny.
I think Lindy was employing what we used to hear from Alain Vigneault with Luongo here. He said, my game plan is come on, Louis. Yeah, I think Lindy was come on, Ryan, to save the day.
It is not uncommon these days for a goaltender to talk about playing in outdoor games.
Yeah.
But there was a time, Ryan Miller, when you were sort of the king of outdoor games. When they weren't all that common, you played in the Cold War record setter, Michigan State in '01 before 74,000 folks. And then you were part of that first Winter Classic, January 1st, 2008, against Sidney and the Penguins.
The Rockwellian scene.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
With the snow falling just so.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experiences of playing outdoors in the big football stadiums.
Yeah, we were excited at Michigan State to be a part of that outdoor event. The NHL didn't quite have the momentum behind that stuff yet, and it was pretty cool to be in college and be kind of the focus of the hockey world. You get the attention a little bit, but like we were kind of like, hey, they're playing outside in front of 75,000 people. It was a big story. It was a lot of hype, and it was a lot of fun. Just watching the rink come together. And I'm from East Lansing, born there, and then playing in the football stadium. It was it's a little bit trippy, but it was fun. Big matchup against Michigan, tight game, and you do kind of laugh though. You have to kind of take the outdoor environment for what it is. You just have to make do. It's not going to be quite the indoor hockey game. Like we had lighting was affected on one side during that game because there's a fuel depot next to the stadium. Like such an old, it's just such an old school design. Like, hey, we have a football stadium. Wouldn't it be a great idea if we have a fuel depot over here on this side? So like the lighting on one side, like the lights had to be pushed back so they're at a lower angle. So it's just, I just remember like anybody coming down that wing, if they had shot from like 40, 50 feet away, like there's just a big, huge glare coming off the ice. And, I talked about it with our guys. They should shoot there. I don't know if the other team picked up on it, but I remember a couple shots, coming through and you're just like, no idea where they're at. And kind of the same thing in Buffalo with all the snow. At one end, the wind's, really pushing. And the other end, the wind's almost pulling. And it was just kind of funny watching that kind of work its way through the game, how guys were fighting against it or really flying down the one side. It was pretty fun. But good to be part of those big hype games that really push the game forward. It's fun to do things in hockey that capture the imagination.
I'm sure in the moment you were more concerned about the 2 points, but when Sidney scores in the shootout, beats you in the shootout, like how long after did you realize, wow, I'm a part of something that is going to be a thing?
Iconic moment for two.
Yeah.
I think we kind of sensed it. Like, even when they were playing that, they're like, yeah, if this goes well, this is going to be something we want to do all the time. And we think there's all these great venues around the country, and we were, they were really laying out the groundwork for it as they were, presenting this to us. And, at the time, when Tom Golisano was the owner of the team, and Larry Quinn was a minority owner. Larry's a big idea guy, and so that just really fit in with that ownership group and how they would always think big. During the lockout, they were trying all these different rules around Buffalo. Like they were always the group that was trying to think big. So, I was happy that we were part of that moment for the NHL.
You long before you became a Vancouver Canuck, you were a part of one of the big moments of hockey here in Vancouver at the 2010 Olympic Games. Mentioned you'd been there in 2006 as well, but you didn't play. In 2010, you are the starting goaltender for Team USA, and you guys have a stacked, loaded team. And you pushed Canada to the brink. You played a great preliminary round game, and then ultimately get to the gold medal game. Your overall experience of those Olympic Games, and in one sense, maybe one of your career achievements, and in one sense, one of your biggest career disappointments, I'm sure, because you had that one notch more to push it. What's the overall takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I think it's pretty accurate to say it's a highlight and something also bittersweet. So um, yeah, the way I kind of look back on it now is going into the tournament, we knew that we'd missed the opening ceremony, and for the Olympics, the full experiences, you're celebrating sports. You have the opening ceremony, you have a closing ceremony. And the way the NHL schedule worked out, we wouldn't be there for the opening. And I just kind of was like, you know what? If we're here for the closing ceremony, it means we've had a hell of a tournament. And our goal is to win. But also in the back of my mind is like, let's make sure we're walking in the closing ceremony. Like, I don't know. It wasn't really like the mindset of like, oh, it'll be okay to have like a consolation thing. It was just kind of like that additional thing, like
feel like an Olympian.
Yeah, I want to feel like an Olympian. I want to win this thing, but I also want to like have this life experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the tournament was amazing. Like I think that hockey is best expressed through all these different things. It can't just be the NHL playoffs is the sole thing. Like hockey is a challenge sport. Like there should be these smaller tournaments. These should be alternate things like World Cup, Olympics. There should be all these ways to have best on best, and that's the way I look at it. And I was going to be part of a best on best, and I was super focused and happy with how we played, and I'm proud of our guys and how we performed. And ultimately, yeah, of course, the ending for me is not ideal, and of course, it's Sid. So, looking back on it, it is disappointing, and it was a quick broken play, and I made a decision, and it ends up being a mistake. And I think anybody who's done anything in their life, and you make a mistake, you got to kind of live with it. You look back on it, and you just kind of, you're like, there's that thought process where, wish that didn't happen, but I mean, it did happen, and I tried to move forward from it by saying I'm going to the closing ceremony, and I'm going to have some gratitude for how things turned out. And I'm going to put a smile on my face. And at the time, my wife, Noreen, and I were pretty early still in our relationship. And it was actually her birthday. And she had been up from LA to come to the first part of the Olympics, catch a game, maybe two, and then, be around my family a little bit. And then she went back. She had some stuff to do. And then we ended up making the gold medal game. And she skipped out on her birthday plans, came up, and my parents helped arrange to get her in the rink. I didn't know she was coming. And so just to hear like, okay, hey, I'm here, and you did great, and to, see her, see my family, go walk in the closing ceremonies. I try and just take that away as, like I did something pretty cool. I got close. Just leave it at that. And the funny part is, over the years, everyone's always asked me about Sid and how that feels, and it's been interesting. Like Sid is a tremendous player, so honestly, if anybody's going to score, it might as well be him.
Right.
And he's a great guy. It's like he's come out to California to train a few times. We've actually skated through the summers while he's been here. Did some focused training and been on the ice together. And and when I was announced my retirement, mainly hearing from guys I played with, he was one of the guys. I didn't play with him, but I heard from him, and so it's been an interesting relationship. He's beat me a few times that I would have loved to stop the puck, but I've also had a good hockey experiences with him where we've competed against each other, we trained together, and it's been it's a weird, wild world.
We've talked to Ryan Kessler about best on best. I think it was Kessler that said this, that when you're playing best on best, you know that when you make a pass, the other guy's going to get it.
Well, Kessler said it was the best game he had ever played in the 2010 Olympic gold medal game because you didn't even have the time to sort of raise your stick or beaver tail like when you were open. The guy who had the puck instantly knew you were open.
Everybody's thinking at that level.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone was thinking at
so
such
my
a high
question
level.
for you, Ryan, is like in that particular play, but in others as well. is the issue for a goaltender that, and maybe I'm overthinking this because a National Hockey League player is a National Hockey League player, but if you're playing Columbus on a Tuesday and somebody looks to the center of the ice as they break down a wing, if that's an 11-goal scorer, the threat of that guy coming down, as a passing option is only so great. But in a best on best, you kind of got to respect everybody out there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, going into overtime, I think they came out hot and they were putting a bunch of shots on that. But it's not just like, it's Nash and it's all these guys who can fire the puck, and it's like, but on the other side of it too, we hunkered down. It was one of the better hockey games I think that you can look back on. Like, both sides had opportunities, but it was not so far tilted towards offense. Like, it was a pretty balanced game of tactics and chances and quality plays on the net and heads up play, keeping the puck away from the net. Like, it was just a balanced hockey game at the highest level.
Yeah, for sure. I think 12 years later, you can still argue it's the greatest hockey game ever played. It's certainly in a small, it's certainly in a small, it's certainly on a small list of games that would be better. 4 years later, that arena becomes your home. We were a little surprised, got to admit, Ryan, just because we all looked at you as a win now goaltender, and we thought, oh boy, the Canucks might be going through a bit of a rebuild or a transition here. What made you decide to sign with the Canucks, and where did you think the team was headed at that stage?
Well, it wasn't so apparent. I mean, you had a big group of veterans. I mean, that first year when we make the playoffs, it was a very veteran group. It seemed like we could transition a few younger rookies in, like Bo Horvat's coming in, like, obviously settled himself right in as a tremendous Canuck player. But we had more of a veteran look, and that was also kind of a bittersweet year for me in that I thought I was starting to get a rhythm, it takes a little longer than people think for a goaltender to get a little bit more comfortable. So I think that's a big thing for me is I was feeling comfortable, and then I hurt my knee, and it was like right in the opportunity towards playoff time. So I was kind of like, oh man, we have this veteran group. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And, hockey wise, I'm like, another opportunity where, I was getting a little bit scrambled. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. On the positive side, that's when Bodie was born. So I got a lot of time to be with him while I was rehabbing and ramping back up, trying to get healthy for playoffs. And like the next 2 years kind of fell off the cliff there. But when I signed, it didn't really have that feel that it was going to be a rebuild. It seemed like there's a strong veteran group. The Sedins are absolute anchors there. And, it felt like we had guys who could be that core, and it wasn't going to be like a core rebuild. It was going to be something where we have the core. Let's just get the feeling right with the surrounding cast. And we had that first year. And then for whatever reason, it kind of got a little bit loose. And then obviously it's been, working back since.
I remember when you arrived here, there was a notion, Ryan Miller's not all that media friendly. I can remember one of your first press conferences, Ryan, you said, look, I don't trust Easley. I'm just not going to share a whole lot with people that I don't know all that well, but going to be here and be professional and accessible to all of you. And boy, were you ever over 3 years. Thank you for that. What was it like playing in a fishbowl Canadian market? Was it too dissimilar from Buffalo?
Yeah,
where
Buffalo,
you were the guy,
exactly.
Obviously a very hot hockey market that's well covered as well.
Yeah, I came in Buffalo, and if people don't know Buffalo very well, I mean, a huge chunk of the fan base is coming over the border from Canada right there. And even the people in town, it's like I would go grocery shopping, and, I've got, 75, 80-year-old ladies would run up, give me a hug, talk about the game prior, or a guy catches me, picking out cereal, and he wants to know why I didn't make that save that, on whatever play happened, like, how do you got to keep your stick down, like that kind of thing. getting advice from people around town. But it's it had a very similar feel. Vancouver's not all that that big of a city in a way. It's got a sprawling area, but downtown's not huge. Everyone kind of has that feel, where they're kind of they know each other, and it has that element of Canada where people are hockey obsessed. So I don't know. I felt like I was in a very similar situation to Buffalo, and I enjoyed my time there. It was a lot of fun to come to a Canadian town, to be part of the Canucks was I don't know, a huge highlight for me. I had a lot of fun in that area, a lot of great memories that extend through hockey and past hockey. I just really like the area a lot. Hoping to be getting a chance to come back there a little bit in retirement, remind my son where he was born, do some of the things that you're not able to do so much in season, maybe get some skiing in now that we're retired, that kind of stuff. But I had fun, and I think Buffalo did condition it to me a little bit, though.
You mentioned your son. We all followed the saga on Hockey Wives, and that was some of the fishbowl coming to you, right? Tell us about the decision for you and Noreen to participate in that show, because it certainly had a lot of Vancouver, showed a lot of Vancouver, and it showed a lot about the two of you and your time here.
Yeah, we talked about it'd be fun for Noreen because I think for pretty much the whole show she was pregnant, or the entire show. But she's been working as an actress for so long, and it was a moment for her to say, well, I got this other thing happening in my life. It would be an interesting way to promote both of us and have some fun doing it. And it was, at the time, I think reality TV was still, there's still the big shows that were popular, but I think some of those shows that are more widely accepted now weren't really out yet. So it was kind of a fun part, to participate in like something kind of different. And I think it's always good for fans to see a different side of things. And we recognize that exposure and accessibility is part of being an athlete or an actress or just anything right now. And the way things are, I think, players are a lot more accessible and open, and they share a lot more. And that was something that we thought would be important.
Then you get to go down to Anaheim, and we suspected it. I mean, it had been rumored for some time.
Hold on, before we move forward, because he's mentioned it a couple of times here. We sure hope to see Bodie Miller tending goal for Canada one day.
Oh, right? That's right. Eligibility.
Absolutely. Yes. We're claiming him here.
You're claiming. He's got to decide what position to play first. I have a house rule though, like he can't play full-time goalie right now. Like he can rotate in with his team, but he's only 7, and I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. If anybody's listening, if their son or daughter is younger, but I just have the feeling that I'd like him to skate a little bit longer within the game. They're barely playing full ice games in the house league, and they're playing cross ice in the travel league. So until the kids really learn the ebbs and flows of I think they barely have power plays yet. You know what I mean? So I'd like him to play hockey long enough so that he sees all the real rules and plays in the environment, and then we'll help him however he.
We've got Kirk McLean up here, who I think had a ceremonial burning of his goaltending equipment. He always plays out in the alumni games.
Yes.
Do you play any noon hour pickup, and are you a rushing defenseman, or what's your attitude towards the pads these days?
I have a set of forward skates, and I got a few pieces of equipment, just enough to skate with my son. Are
you proud of your skating?
I still have the skills. It's different now. Like I was laughing because like I changed my skate setup so much for a certain style of goaltending that I got forward skates on. I could actually like do certain turns and stops, and it wasn't like going to break my ankles.
Right.
But it was it was fun to kind of do that. But I haven't skated in any real like pickup games or anything. I don't have enough equipment. But I have played goalie. The only I played goalie, had the gear on 3 times since I retired. Has all been to play against 6 and 7-year-olds. We had a father son for my son's birthday. I rented the ice and I got all the dads together and we played against all the kids. So like we had like 20 kids versus like 7 dads, and I played goalie and had the big net, and then one of my son's friends played goalie, and he had the small net going.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cross ice, and the kids won some tight games.
Well done, Dad.
Yeah.
Speaking of dads and families, there was an incredible moment after your final game there with Anaheim where you go to meet, I think it's your parents in the stands, Ryan, but you tell me who was there waiting for you, and sort of have a big emotional hug and recognizing the end of the career. And it was all captured on video. Did you know that? And tell us, take us through that moment.
Yeah, we just the way the season played out with Anna, we fell out of the playoff race. I started talking to Bob Murray, GM there, and Sudsy, our goalie coach, and they're like, you really should say you're going to retire, because I had told the coaches and staff, some of the players, I was like, this is it, and I was just trying to enjoy the last road trips, trying to enjoy my last games, and have some fun with the that last part of the season there, and like, you should really announce it so you can say goodbye. And so I took him up on it, and Anaheim did me a solid, and they helped me announce it. They helped to kind of let me say goodbye. And I had a chance to play at home where my wife and son came, and played against the Kings at home, and ended up being a nice way to say goodbye. We finally had some fans in the stands during that COVID situation, where, obviously we've had more of it this year, but like last year, we really didn't have anybody in the stands for a while. So it was nice to have some fans, have my family there, say goodbye there. But I told my parents, like, they're going to give me one more game in Minnesota, which would be easier for you guys to get to during the COVID situation still. And would you were there for me at the beginning, would you be there at the end? So that's kind of how that played out. And that's my mom and dad, and it just kind of one last time at the rink, where, as any parent, hockey is a very involved sport, and they helped me a lot, and it was nice to have them there to say goodbye.
It was a wonderful moment looking in from afar, Ryan. Thanks for sharing that. Catch us up beyond what you've mentioned already. What are you up to today? And certainly a word or two about the Steadfast Foundation.
Yeah, well, Steadfast Foundation, we still try and help where we can. Right now, it's been kind of randomly raising money here and there. Like I did some memorabilia fundraisers, switched gears a little bit. But during the pandemic, we raised money for food banks and for families having trouble during this time. But our initiative has always been to help families fighting cancer, uniquely towards childhood and young adult. So still focused on that where we can. It's not as much work as we did in Buffalo, but we're still doing what we can. And then, right now I'm actually working as a consultant with hockey ops with Colin Campbell's department in the NHL, with Kay Whitmore, and advising on some stuff that happens during on-ice play. Was able to visit in the War Room a couple months ago in Toronto, but with Noreen being pregnant, I've been trying to be around, and now we have our daughter Kaya being born last week. I've just been trying to be around. I had my sights set on some other stuff in hockey, but right now it's really just a family moment. Trying to just be available, be around. As you guys know, and an NHL schedule is kind of a selfish schedule. Like you're always kind of on. It's always about you and what you got going on. You're here, you're there, you're gone. So I'm trying to just be around and help get Kaya up and running and keep Bodie on cruise control because he's doing great, and let Noreen have her recovery and then have her moment where she can be a little more flexible. Her job is also affected by COVID. There's been a lot of changes in that. I'd like her to get back to doing what she loves to do. So it's kind of just a transition time and time to take in things as they come, I guess, be available.
Admirable.
Well, you were always a class act with us and a true pro. Thank you for this, Ryan Miller. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed my time there, and hopefully come back and see everybody.
Please do. Thanks, Ryan.
Please do.
Thanks, guys.
That was former Canuck Ryan Miller here on S&P Presents, presentation of Audi Downtown Vancouver.
And at Audi Downtown Vancouver, don't forget the seasons are changing. Make sure you're always ready by going to the parts and service department. They've got the accessories there, the racks for your particular season. Going into summer, make sure you got the bike racks ready. Make sure you're ready for the wet bathing suits in the back seat and all that sort of stuff. It's coming eventually. Go to AudiDowntownVancouver.ca.
I would love to hear your feedback on that interview. You can text 778-402-9680 to the Great Clips inbox. Your local Great Clips salon is proudly Canadian owned and operated. What struck you there?
I love the Sidney Crosby references.
Yes.
Like that was the burr in the saddle all career long. But you know what? And I'm sure he would have wished that he had some big moments over Sidney Crosby.
Sure.
But to know that he was the foil, I mean, that's a feather in your cap.
And he said as much, right?
Yeah.
To be linked in history with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Is pretty cool, particularly given the type of guy he is. And how about Sid, reaching out to him in retirement, never played with him, just worked out from time to time. The line about his parents meeting him in Minnesota, you were there for me at the beginning. Will you be there for me in the end? Oh, I mean, your heart just sinks there. It was a amazing moment caught on video. If you haven't seen it, some Google homework, as Blake likes to say. I love the line about his approach to dealing with fans and media. Him and Noreen DeWolf, his missus, who of course is a Hollywood actress. We recognize exposure and accessibility is part of being an athlete or an actress. And when he came here, I remember there was a lot of consternation. Ooh, he can be grumpy. Is he going to be media friendly and all that? He was a total pro. He wasn't going to share everything with us, and nor did he have to. But he was a total pro. And I also love the part about, hockey is a challenge sport, not just expressed through the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Very forward thinking and not so he's got the blinders off. Like there's just, sometimes you get pros that are just stuck in their one singular goal. And, this to be the best sport in the world, there needs to be more than just the Stanley Cup. And it's great to hear him as open to that as he was.
Well, he listed his favorite hockey experience with us as the 2010 Olympics, despite the fact that, they lost and he gave up the game-winning goal. That should tell you a thing or two about the perspective and the breadth of thought about this game from Ryan.
And you just heard from the 14th winningest goaltender of all time. I mean,
just an incredible career.
Like a career that really, and a .914 save percentage, which is tremendous over one's career, considering he played on some really bad Buffalo teams after his initial.
Some
bad Canucks teams. Remember, that kept the Canucks afloat. Canucks might have had some better draft picks if not for him. It's just it's tremendous. He just was never going to have a bad season, it seemed.
No, a workhorse, as you outlined, to a level that we just don't see anymore. I mean, he makes the conference finals his first 2 years as the starting goaltender.
Yeah,
in Buffalo. That's coming off a star-studded collegiate career and, of course, a studded international career as well. No, he was the real deal franchise goaltender at one point in his career.